And while you're at it, give yourselves a round of applause for being here as learners. Come on, let's go. Many of you may know, yesterday I literally could not talk. And so by the grace of God, I'm here today. I did get my voice back a little bit. I'm going to give you everything I got for 45 minutes. I've been drinking honey and tea for the last 20-something hours. So, but with that, we're going to learn together as thought partners. I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm honored to represent the great state of Ohio. As Benita mentioned, I'm Michael Barnes. This is my 31st year in education. Second superintendency at with the Mayfield City Schools. Prior to being superintendent, I spent 23 years there in a variety of roles: teacher, coach, director of HR, assistant superintendent. What's interesting now in this role is many of the parents are former students or players of mine that I coach. So in terms of street cred, I have a significant amount of street cred, but that doesn't come without its challenges because they feel that they have access to you all the time. But nevertheless, I feel blessed and honored to serve this community. Mayfield is an eastern suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, up on Lake Erie. When we left on Tuesday, because my wife came with me, when we left on Tuesday, it was frost on the ground. And we had sweatshirts on and coats, and then when we landed here, we were like, wow, why are we ever living up north? But nevertheless, we do. We represent 4 dynamic and diverse communities. Gates Mills is high-end wealth, $3-4 million homes, to Mayfield Heights, which is your starter blue-collar bungalow kind of home from World War II. All 4 communities comes with its diverse and unique challenges, but nevertheless, there's a heartbeat there in the Mayfield City Schools. And as you can see from the paw in the middle, that represents 4 communities with the smaller boxes, and the larger symbol in the middle represents the school district that holds it together as the anchor. We serve about 4,100 students. We've held constant since 1980. We don't have a lot of build out. We turn over homes as people get older and new families move in. So our enrollment stays about constant. We have 4 elementary schools that serve each 4 of those communities, and they feed into 1 middle school and 1 high school. I am also the executive director of 2 consortium programs as superintendent, one for career technical education and the other for workforce development for students with disabilities. So we're really proud to serve a diverse student population. We enjoy an excellent reputation in the state of Ohio as a high-performing district. We do have a lot of competition around us. To be honest with you, we have 3 private schools, a parochial school, and 2 parochial K-8 schools that feed into the other bigger high school parochial schools. So when we talk about competition, we have it, right? And one of the things I asked our team upon my return in 2021 is, how do we know we're winning? How do we know we're winning? It's not enough to show up every day and have qualitative conversations about kids all the time. That's important too, but it has to be a balance with quantitative conversation so that we know that we're winning and we're serving the way in which we're intending to serve. All access learning model is a philosophy that we're committed to around personalized learning. I'm going to share with you a model that has earned us national recognition. In fact, the gentleman here paid me a compliment earlier. Last year we had 47 superintendents visit the Mayfield City Schools to learn about our option program at our high school, our learning modalities. I'm going to touch upon that at the very end, but the majority of my time I'm going to talk about trust and how we build trust and leverage trust for high-end results. And lastly, due to the excellence and committed staff, the majority of whom hold advanced degrees, Mayfield students as a whole exhibit strong academic abilities. As I mentioned, this is my second superintendency. I returned to Mayfield in 2021 to find a different Mayfield than the one that I left. At the bottom screen, in 2012, I had the great privilege of participating in the Army National War College National Security Seminar. Excuse me. At this seminar, there were military people that had achieved the level of colonel, not only from the United States, but from across the world. And they were paired up with civilians like myself from all walks of life, education, medicine, law, etc. And the purpose of this national security seminar in 2012 was to get thought partners in the room to talk about critical issues in the world that could potentially pose a threat to national peace and stability. And we all know what we're dealing with right now in the Middle East, and we pray for everyone over there. But it was the most profound and impactful professional development exercise that I ever had the chance to participate in, still to this day. And it was a week long. And at that seminar, one of the things that I learned was this concept, VUCA. Many of you may have heard of it, maybe you haven't. But after the Cold War, the United States realized, military, that we were built to fight a Cold War. And after 2001 and the attacks on the World Trade Center, we realized that the enemy was more nimble, flexible, and adaptable. And we weren't built to respond to that kind of challenge. And so then I began to ask myself, if this is the new world that we're living in, that was back in 2012, is our education system built to ensure that our kids are nimble, flexible, and adaptable, and can be successful in their travels to navigate a complex and ever-changing world? And the answer was no. Well, guess what I found when I came back to Mayfield? I found a community that was volatile, a community that was uncertain. We talk about uncertainty. We talked about unpredictability. We didn't know what was happening from day to day. And remember, we were still in the midst of COVID. The complexity that I found upon my return was staggering. Kids that I knew that were now parents were angry, upset. There were shouting matches. And I'm thinking, what in the world did I get myself into? This was supposed to be a celebration. The kid comes back home. He's leading the district, and it was chaos. And lastly, the entire school community was very, very ambiguous. So I asked myself, what was the looming big issue here? And the big issue was trust. What COVID did is it separated communities, and Mayfield was not spared. People were no longer talking to each other. They were no longer spending time with one another. In fact, our Board of Education was being accused of not being transparent. Our administrators and our staff were being accused of not taking care of the basic needs and necessities of our children. We were trying to still focus on the academics. And what about the social, emotional, and the mental health aspect of it? And oh boy, by the way, things like diversity and equity had become bad words, and they were divisive as well. So there's a lot of accusation and a lot of divisiveness. So I concluded upon my return that the biggest issue that we were dealing with as a school community that I needed to help us overcome as superintendent was reestablishing the trust that the community had in the schools. So what I'm going to ask you at your table with elbow partners is to answer this question or discuss this question, and then I'll ask a few of you to share out, and we'll keep moving. How are you building and or maintaining trust within your organization? Take a few minutes, talk, go. Yes, you have one more here.
We didn't really get to get into it very much, but it was about transitional times and your situation that you're in and what trust could mean to that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for sharing. Those were all excellent points. You know, one of the things that we realized very early on our journey towards building trust or reconnecting, if you will, was we had to do it with the people. This isn't something we were going to be able to do as a cabinet or a work session with the board and the cabinet. We had to do it with the people. On the right, what you see is my superintendent parent advisory. And I immediately established a parent advisory because I wanted to hear a voice from the parents that was reasonable, yet not a yes voice. Reasonable, but not a yes voice. On the left-hand side, you see a situation where one of our students is leading a conversation with a community. For my superintendent student advisory group, we invited community members in, and we had students lead questions and conversations and facilitate discussions with those people. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our journey. I'm going to ask you to talk one more time before we move back on, and I want you to reflect on these two statements. The one on the left says, let's give ourselves grace. Let's give ourselves grace. The one on the right says, progress, not perfection. The question I have for you and to discuss with thought partners is, how might these statements impact one's mindset? Go, I'll bring you back sooner. And let's just make progress. My old college football coach used to say, every day you either get better or you get worse, but you never stay the same. The choice is yours. Every day you either get better or you get worse, but you never stay the same, and the choice is yours. That's what progress versus perfection means for us. This was our first strategy. Our second strategy involved my 100-day transition plan to the board and to the community. For the first 100 days, I came up with 4 goals. One of those goals was to establish public trust and confidence through open, honest communication and positive relationships. I could not take for granted that I had been there 23 years, and many of these parents I taught and coached, because it was crazy at the time, right? Everybody was angry, everybody was upset, everybody had been separated. So we wanted to intentionally create this as a goal that we were going to reconnect and build trust. The third strategy is what I call the 4 anchors of trust. The 4 anchors of trust. Number 1 is access. Remember what I told you early on. The board was still meeting virtual. The schools were closed. The community didn't have access. They wanted to know what was going on. Access was very, very important as a strategy, as a component of this third strategy. So what I did is I created coffee talks and listen and learns. And every week I was out somewhere in the community with mask on, or some people decided not to because that's the world we were in at the time. But I took it to the streets. Because early on, their only access was a board meeting, and that's why we were getting 150 to 200 people showing up and acting an absolute fool. Right? We wanted to create another platform where they had access to share their thoughts, frustrations, and ask questions. It was said yesterday that when you're looking at the data and when you're receiving the data, don't debate it. So one of the strategies during the coffee talks and listen and learns when we were given access is when someone would raise their hand and absolutely light us up with something, I would say, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you shared your frustration and your thoughts. We did not get defensive. We did not debate. We provided access. The second component is relationships. We invited people back into the building. We sat down. We had parent councils, student councils. We brought teams of teachers and staff together. We brought business community together because we wanted to reestablish relationships. So access, relationships. Number 3 is I felt that we needed to create the opportunity for stakeholders, internal and external, to have a seat at the table when talking about the future of the Mayfield City Schools. Seat at the table. Because we knew that having a seat at the table, we were going to pull them in. Because now they own it too. And now it's going to be a shared vision. And now they were a part of building the future for the Mayfield City Schools. And lastly, progress monitoring feedback. We talked about with the surveys yesterday, we have to give feedback and make sure people understand that we're listening to what they're saying. So those were the 3 strategies that we use. Attack the mindset, 100-day transition plan, with one of the goals was to build trust. And number 3, the 4 anchors of trust. We walked away with, I got several of these quotes with some big takeaways. Number 1, building trust is a process. And we're going to stress process here for the remainder of our time together. Trust results from consistent and predictable interaction over time. 2, a team is not a group of people that work together. A team is a group of people that trust each other. When we talk about team back home, we talk about team internal and external. Not just the staff, not just my cabinet, not just the board, but our general community. And 3rd, you are either building trust or destroying it. So why was building trust a cornerstone of our process? I'm going to go back to the process. I realized that I could not facilitate a process that would continue to build trust and where I would be seen as a part and not the dictator. We needed a process where I can be a part of a professional learning community right along with those internal and external stakeholders to see this thing through. So it wasn't Mike Barnes's plan, because we all know if you're a superintendent, you're in a leadership position, people yield to you. You get to the table and they just turn and look at you when a question is asked because they want you to. And I wanted to be embedded as a part of the process. And so real quick, I'm going to ask Pat Greco and Ryan Hess to stand up and join me in giving them a round of applause, please. So there's a backstory to this. We're just not just clapping for them, just to clap for them, okay? There's a backstory. I was at AASA and the new superintendent program, national certification program, or whatever that thing is called, right? And Pat Greco was giving a presentation, and she was talking about aligning for impact. And she was talking about building systems and processes for excellence. Well, I just told you that I needed a process. I needed a process and a system that could help us along the journey where I wasn't driving it, but I could be a part of it. And then she connected me to Ryan. And Ryan and I spent several Zoom calls back and forth, and we were talking about how this could work for the Mayfield City Schools. And I said, I found my process. Now I had to convince my board. So right there, what you see is the actual part of the memo that I sent to my Board of Education saying, this is for us. I said, the what is a system-wide continuous improvement approach. In Mayfield, they don't talk about strategic planning. That's like a bad word. It stems from the early 90s. Let's not even get into it, but because that's admitting that something's wrong with us. So there's nothing wrong with us, right? We're talking about continuous improvement, progress, not perfection. So a system-wide continuous improvement approach, and it was similar to the Baldrige approach that we used in the early 2000s in Mayfield when I was a teacher and a coordinator of a program for at-risk students. And then the why, because we wanted to advance our organizational excellence, I said to the board. We wanted to identify and advance the district's continuous improvement priorities because no one could tell me. Remember, what was the question that I said I was asking my team? How do we know we're winning? No one could answer it. No one could answer that question, so I knew we didn't know where we were going, right? And if you don't know where you're going, any road to get you there. 3, to ensure that our students, families, and communities served by the district continue to receive the best possible education and life opportunities. And the 4th bullet is to create a shared and unified vision. That was the catch. A shared and unified vision, because the process they explained to me brought people to the table, which is what I had begun doing upon my return. Now this just systemized it. Is that a word, systemize? Systematize? Systemize. Okay. That's what this did for me, for us. So what? What helped us to build trust during the Focus Forward process was a review of the community satisfaction survey. We sent the community satisfaction survey out, and it was pretty good, actually. We also conducted focus groups with students, staff, parents, and a steering committee that we created as a part of our process and our work. We held town hall meetings. The difference between my coffee talks and town hall is my coffee talks, which I still do, because once you start them, you can't stop them, right? But I don't do them every week. We do them once a month now. The difference between the town hall and the coffee talks is the coffee talks did not have an agenda. That was my opportunity to hear and understand from the community what was on their mind. And it could go from my daughter got cut from the cheerleading squad to the reading curriculum in 2nd grade. It's all over the place. But people just wanted the opportunity to connect and to have their voices heard. So town halls, they were more structured around a theme, okay? We held 4 meetings with the steering committee comprised of teachers, administrators, board members, parents, and community members. We also met with the admin team on numerous times to craft specific data-driven areas of focus and action, and administered a feedback survey after the fact to gain input from the Mayfield City Schools employees and our Board of Education, because we wanted our board to be included as thought partners as well. How we did it We talked about honoring stakeholder feedback by taking their feedback and putting into different platforms where we could break it down as we were working towards priorities. Providing opportunities for two-way conversations and participation. Increasing transparency through results by sharing the results and developing district priorities and outcomes that are aligned to the stakeholders. So one of the things that came from our exercise that I'll just point to, I'm not going to go into our entire continuous improvement plan, but if you notice, 4 quality pillars emerged from our work. And it was important to everyone that the headings of the quality pillars demonstrated ownership by everybody involved, including the entire community. And if you're like me back there, you can't see that. So I'm going to just read all 4 of those for you. Column 1 in our quality improvement journey says our students. People felt that it was important that we identified the young folks as ours. Second pillar is our people, not our employees, not our folks, not the dudes and dudettes, our people, okay? Third is our family and community partnerships. The family's ours, the community is ours. And lastly, our operations. How are we supporting this operationally? Because they're ours. We have to be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars, et cetera. I put this slide in here to just kind of reemphasize that if you could see, the entire school community was beginning to take ownership of this thing. And as you can see, Focus Forward is something that is branded and marketed in our district. If you go on our website, you'll see it everywhere. That is the name of our continuous improvement plan. Our students know it, our staff knows it, and our community knows it. When they begin to identify, and by the way, it's on all of our letterheads and everything now. When everybody as an organization and outside the organization that are part of the general community begin to identify with that, you know you're onto something. At our convocation this year, it was suggested by our staff that we all have jerseys under the banner of one team, one plan, and one focus. And I just wanted to show a few pictures up there just to kind of demonstrate the solidarity. Now, mind you, folks, the gentleman prior to this here breakout session in the fireside talked about humility. I am very humble. I can't believe in a year or 2 years that we've come this far. But I will tell you, the reason why I believe that we have is because we have invited them to the seat, or to a seat at the table. This is a part of a shared ownership, okay? And I believe that that is accelerated. So I'm going to share with you some evidence of where we've moved the needle in such a very, very short time. I'm going to talk about some achievement data, and then I'm going to try to explain to you as succinctly and quickly as I can about a program adjustment that we've made to support our philosophy of learning around personalized learning, okay? As you can see there, as reported this past September, our district overall achievement score has improved by 10 points. 10 points. Now, one of the things that we've learned from career technical education is there's high levels of engagement. Would you agree? So I lied to you. I said I was going to only ask you to talk twice. I'm going to ask you to talk one more time. Why is engagement in career technical education typically very high? Student engagement. Talk, 30 seconds, please. Indulge me. And so, like any educator, we said, what the heck's going on with that? What is happening there? And when I get to the part about personalization and what we've done at the high school, which is why 47 of our colleagues visited us last May 11th, you'll see the connection. But that's also driving this, and you'll see the connection. So 10 points. We're excited about that. The district earned a 5-star rating. Last year we were 4. The year before that we were 3. The 5-star rating is the highest rating that the state of Ohio issues. It stands for exceptionally exceeding state standards as an entire district. Collectively, all of our buildings, all buildings' achievement scores improved. All 6 of them, including our Career Technical Education Consortium that I am the executive director of. Gates Mills Elementary scored in the top 2% of elementary schools in the state of Ohio. And we also received a 5-star rating on both gap closing for our subgroups and a growth component, meaning each kid experienced at least 1 year's growth. 3 through 8, we received 5 out of 5 stars. Can you give the Mayfield City Schools a round of applause, please? Thank you, thank you. You don't really have to do that. So, if you think about your own children, I have 2, and I was telling the gentleman in the back who's on point with the music and the mic and all that, so I really appreciate you. I missed the slide here. There's a slide that's supposed to go before. Anybody that knows me, anytime I present, I sneak a family member in there. So I had my 2 daughters in there, but I didn't get it to Megan in time, so that's my fault, because I was trying to get my voice back. But nevertheless, if I think about my own 2 children, my youngest baby, Maya, is 24 years old. She's structured. Everything's linear. She doesn't like change. We tease her and say, Maya, you got to be more spontaneous. And she goes, well, I will if you let me know ahead of time. So she needs structure. That's how she ticks. The oldest one, she's off the hook. She is a procrastinator, but high achiever. She gets things done, but she is just free. I mean, she went to Portugal by herself. I'm like, who does that? Like, why are you flying all over the country by yourself? She's that kid. She doesn't like structure. So, keeping those 2 examples in mind, you think about your own children. If we're going to truly personalize the experience for kids, and you said it, career technical education, high engagement because kids are interested. They get voice, they get choice, right? And guess what else is a component? There's no time barrier. See, we are constantly trying to fight the collision between time and learning. What's your name? Jim. Jamie. If Jamie and I are sitting down for a 50-minute exam and he finishes early and I don't finish at 50 minutes, have we really measured my ability to demonstrate proficiency or time? Career Tech Ed, you give kids blocks of time. We have recreated that in our high school. We have 5 modalities that a student can choose from. We build their capacity to understand and reflect on how they best learn, beginning in elementary school, so that when they get to the high school, they can choose a traditional 8-period day, and I'm gonna go fast, 50 minutes, 8 period. Maya Barnes, my daughter, youngest, that's her. Or a self-paced course, where it combines 50 minutes, plus you can take some 50-minute classes by meeting every other day. The unintended benefit of that is we have built-in interventions for students because the teachers are off at the same time. Or third, a fully customized learning option, which we call the option. And I'm gonna just hit this real fast. If you read this, fully customized school day, we have a large room, we have content teachers, an intervention specialist, a paraprofessional. The teachers have many lessons. A kid can learn whatever he or she wants that day. If I want to work on a composition all day, I can do that. If I need help on a math component, I can go in the back and there's a teacher back there to have many lessons. All the teachers in there flip their classrooms so that the students have the opportunity to ask questions and built-in intervention throughout the day. I'm not going to read the rest of this to you because our time is getting close. But here's the point of this. The only reason why we were able to do this is why? Because the community has trust in the district. We didn't ask for permission to do this. Because we built momentum, ain't no stopping us now, Over the course of 3 years in trust, we flipped our entire high school to provide a fully personalized learning experience for our children that meets their voice and their choice, and that's why we're seeing our results soar. I am confident that that's the reason, in addition to great instruction as well, and great support. Well, with that, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain them. I appreciate your attention.